We are joined by Nathan Zagura and Matt Wilhelm. Guys, what'd you think of this weekend? And I'm not a big fan of saying what's their letter grade. Give me a word to describe the weekend.
Strong, tough, physical. 3 words for you there. Ray Farmer, Mike Pettin put their stamp on this team. It started on day one, getting better from the inside out. Defensive line with Danny Shelton to address the run defense. Offensive line with Cam Irving. This is going to be a tough, physical team that's going to play good defense and run the football.
My one word, solid. I thought top to bottom, and more so than anything, what I take from this draft and Ray Farmer's elation, as well as Mike Pettin, with the guys that they got is, they might not be the sexy, fancy names that are out there that a lot of people watch when they watch college football and they hear, but they went out and got the guys they wanted. And everything that I've heard and read since the draft has concluded is that all these guys had an inclination at some point they were going to be a Brown, which meant Ray Farmer and his staff were diligent to dig through the weeds to find the guys that want to be and play like a Brown.
Danny Shelton said the day before, like, look, I'm going to the Browns. I can't wait to meet all these guys, which I thought was really interesting for a guy that's drafted. Like, I understand the whole draft philosophy, act like you're going to want to be there, but he sounded like Ray Farmer had just picked up the phone and said, if he's there at 12, they're taking him.
I think he knew that. Cam Irving knew it. Nate Orchard definitely knew he was coming to the Browns. That was their target. When Ray Farmer gave the interview after day one, he said, I do have one guy in mind. It was Nate Orchard. So they were very excited. They did their research. They got a lot of mature guys, people who were at the Senior Bowl, people who were productive, academic All-Americans, people who were captains of their teams. There was a lot of leadership and thought into the quality of guy that they went out and got.
And I think also, too, just beyond 12 and 19, when it comes to Nate Orchard, we were able to trade back from 43 to 51, gain some picks, and still get the guy that we were in love with at that pick.
All right, Matt, take me through the process of being a player in this situation, because you have a great year of college, clearly because you got drafted. So now you're waiting around for the draft. You do the combine. The day finally comes. They call your name. You're a player. You get to go to your city. And now what?
Well, now, of course, your plan and speaking to that team about how you're going to get to the city, what it's going to be like living in that city. For a lot of these guys really never leaving their states, with Cam Irving being from the South, with Danny Shelton living out and being, born and raised out in Washington, flying all this way and starting a brand new life. And as we've heard from Danny, he's embraced this as his new home already, and he's excited to be a Cleveland Brown.
All right, look, we've learned some lessons from last year. If you had any advice to give to these guys about being a rookie here in Cleveland, what advice would you give them?
Keep your mouth shut, do your work, study your playbook, study the tape, be as prepared as you can be, and ask questions in the rooms, ask questions of the veterans. Go out there, and this is your job now. This is your livelihood. Take it seriously. There will be plenty of time for party. Go ahead and focus on the task at hand.
That's such a great point. And for me, even in my professional experiences, when I learned from the veterans on how to be a pro, what it took to practice well, what it took to learn the system, what it took to perform each and every day in a very monotonous setting. You're doing the same thing over and over again, trying to perfect it so that the 16 opportunities you get are the best product that you can put on the field.
Yeah, but for the first time in your life, you're getting a paycheck to play the game you love. And how does that affect you?
And you file your taxes as an independent as opposed to a dependent under your mom and dad's wing. So it is very much different. So managing your money is obviously one of the key aspects, but also, too, finding what works for you, and in most cases, you're learning from the other guys in that locker room.
All right, Nathan, how many of these 12 guys they picked do we think, one, can have an immediate impact, and two, how many of these guys are going to make the team?
I think you're going to get an immediate impact from the guys that you took early in the draft. I think Danny Shelton's going to come in to be a day one starter. Cam Irving is certainly going to compete to start day one at right guard for this team. Orchard, pass rusher, fills a big need. And then Duke Johnson's going to come in and be that change of pace back. I think he's going to solve the return problems, too, which is going to be very, very important. It's been compared to Giovanni Bernard or a Brian Westbrook. They love the tackle. Defensive tackle Xavier Cooper. They've talked about a rotation there. Then you get into the third day. You get a strong safety who probably is going to learn from Dante Whitner, and you have some succession planning there. Succession planning, obviously, at the inside linebacker position with the young man out of USC who had 95 tackles a year ago. You needed a fullback. You got him in Malcolm Johnson. So I think they addressed their needs. They addressed future needs, which is what smart GMs do. You got a couple guys that are probably going to be red shirts because of injuries. Efo, the cornerback they got out of Oregon in the 7th round, won't play this year, but this is a guy with 1st or 2nd round talent, and you got him in the 7th round. Smart pick. I think you're going to get big impacts probably from 5 of these guys, and I think you're going to get 9 to 10 of them maybe making this team, certainly staying on the practice squad.
Your thoughts?
And for me personally, I think what I'm going to do in the coming weeks, just so, on our radio show, Cleveland Browns Daily, is I'm going to write down the 53 names that I think can make this roster. Because there's a lot of competition. There are a lot of good bodies, especially when you have 12 individuals drafted in a class. And, you've got so many guys under contract from last year's team. You've added, 6, 7 free agents this year already. We're going to add some undrafted free agents yet to be determined right now. So it's going to be very competitive to make that 53 roster. And what position group and how many bodies are going to come out of that group, and then your number spits out to that 53. So there's going to be some push and pulling, and some guys very uncomfortable currently on this roster.
Oh, it's going to be tough, especially on the defensive line now. You're going to have big name guys. You got 8 of them already. And when you play in a 3-4, I don't know that you're going to carry 8 defensive linemen when it's all said and done. And not to mention, you talked about the undrafted free agents. Isaiah Crowell was an undrafted free agent last year. Taylor Gabriel, K'Wan Williams. These guys all came in and had huge impacts on this team. And we haven't even talked about those guys being added to the 12 that were just drafted.
Could be a fun year, a very fun year. Thank you guys very much.